Welcome to Coming Out of the Spiritual Closet with your host, me, Brittany Wittig. Join me every week to explore and demystify the world of modern spirituality. In 2012, I experienced my worst nightmare when my mom passed away from cancer. The experience of living my worst fear was nothing like I would have expected, though. It actually inspired me to reprioritize my life, to live big. And as I saw my life begin to improve, I became obsessed with the power of fear to create positive change in our lives. I spent the last 10 years learning everything I could about fear and courage, and I tested everything I learned in my own life. I quit my 9-to-5 to travel the world full time. I built a profitable travel blog, even though I had no previous writing or website experience. I started an online coaching business that allows me to work when and where I choose. And it all came full circle in 2021 when I was diagnosed with cancer. I was once again faced with living my worst fear. But this time, I used the courageous tools and processes I'd spent the last decade developing to intuitively move through my treatment and my cancer journey. In 2022, I was declared cancer-free. I came out of my cancer journey happier, healthier, and thriving more than ever before. And that is when the Courageous Transformation Academy was born. I knew I had to share these powerful tools with as many people as possible. The Courageous Transformation Academy is a 10-module course and coaching program for ambitious dreamers who want to finally begin living their dreams without having to think positive or deny their body's innate intelligence. Imagine what it would feel like to actually live the future you can't stop thinking about, to wake up every morning in love with your life. This is possible for you. Discover how to cultivate courage so you can take empowered, inspired action. Learn to hear the voice of your intuition so you can follow it to that life you're dreaming of. And discover how your subconscious mind and nervous system work together so you can choose the way that you experience reality. Take the first courageous step today and join the waitlist for the Courageous Transformation Academy. The waitlist will receive early access and a special discount. The link for the waitlist is in the show notes. This week, I have such a treat for you. This podcast episode is a long time coming. Today, I interview Europa Gitte. Europa Gitte is an evolutionary midwife and a soul connector. She is also a Reiki Master and teacher and crystal adept, a dancer, dreamer, artist, and speaker. And let me tell you that these beautiful titles still don't do Gitte justice. First of all, I have never enjoyed editing a podcast as much as I enjoyed editing this one. To listen to Gitte speak, honestly, is an energetic experience. She radiates so much pure, loving energy. So what I'll ask you to do as you listen to this episode is allow yourself to be open to receiving. When Gitte speaks, there is so much wisdom in her words, but Gitte's energy is a powerful experience in and of itself. And I know that by listening to this podcast with the intention of open receiving, you will receive a beautiful, energetic activation. So without further ado, sit back, open up, and get ready to receive. Gitte, I am so thrilled to have you here on the podcast. This has been a long time coming, and I'm so happy that it finally came together. And I just want to start by asking you, what has your spiritual journey looked like? And can you share a little bit about how your spiritual path started and what that journey has looked like for you?
Well, it's an interesting thing because when I think about it today, I know that my spiritual journey doesn't have a beginning or an end. It just always was. Since I came into this body, I forgot about these things. And
Right.
I've always been fascinated, though, by everything mythical. I've read mythology, legends, always was super, super fascinated for me, sci-fi, fantasy. But my actual journey into spirit really started, like a lot of journeys start with a really painful ending.
Mm.
That was about 15 years ago.
Okay.
And I definitely thought that, things were happening to me because I got basically the rug was pulled underneath my feet. And I just like completely lost everything that made me feel safe.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a super interesting time, super hard. But the moment I decided I needed to move on, it just like, it opened up. The universe was waiting for me. Totally. I couldn't afford any schools or anything, and I wanted to go to school. I was going to go to an energy school and learn the proper way.
Ah, interesting.
But the universe had other plans. And I moved to the Bay Area for about a year, and I fell in with people of all kinds of different ways but highly spiritual, super, super intuitive, and very advanced in their own journeys. So I had my own private school.
Cool.
Today, when I think back of it, I couldn't have gotten a better school at all. Everything kind of really was shared with me in a really beautiful, deep way. And it was really, really beautiful and amazing. I learned a lot about all kinds of different things. And, when you come from this old energy where you always think you have to specialize into something, you have to go deep with something.
Right.
But I recognized fairly quick that all of it was together, of the wholeness of it. So as I moved back to Palm Springs, I realized that was the best education that I could have gotten, because whoever I was working with, whatever their things was, I had some kind of clue about it. So I was familiar with it. So I kept learning and learning and learning. And today I know all of this hardship, challenging, was really happening for me. So I could really get onto this journey. The universe just clearly was saying, it's time for you to do what you came here for to do.
Yes. Oh my
Live
gosh.
the life that you came here for to live. And
Right.
it was not that I had a bad life before.
Right.
But I recognize today, 15 years later, I am more alive than I've ever been in my entire life. It's exciting. I'm learning new things all the time. There's so much deep exploration. I remember as a child, I once had to write about who we thought what we wanted to be. And well, I always kind of knew, because my parents had it all planned out for me. When I was thinking about, I wanted to explore things. I really wanted to explore things. And I was like devastated because, I was learning, oh my God, the world is already explored. But here we are in the biggest discovery of exploration in humanity.
Yes.
Where we, like really get into layer after layer, into deeper, into that connection with our own divinity.
Yes. Yes. The internal exploration. I mean, it's infinite, right? And so it's never ending.
Yes. fear has a bottom.
Mm.
Fear, at one point, you're over it. And I think we have reached that as a society, as a collective. But love, oh my God, that spiral of love gets deeper and deeper, and you always discover more. And it is so exciting to explore that within yourself, and then in that connection with the outside world, because you're basically a unit in yourself. You're one in yourself, but we're also that one within our community, within the world, not just with humans, but animals, with the mountains, trees, and the spiders. We all kind of work together so that we all have that. And what it comes down to is really the honoring of everything, and everything, allowing yourself to be taught by everything you discover, by everything you see, everything that is around you. Everything has something to teach you. And it's the greatest discovery, greatest exploration that I could never even have dreamt of, to be on that journey.
Oh, I love that so much. And I love what you're saying about everything being your teacher. That is so powerful. And that is definitely something that I was first exposed to through you. You exposed me to that idea that everything is my teacher. And truly everything. When Gita says everything, she means everything. Like, my water bottle sitting here next to me, there's something in that's there for a purpose. It's not there by accident. It's not a coincidence. It's there by design.
100%. And when you come to that, really, that conscious understanding of that everything has, I have the same thing. It's my cup. So I choose it because I love this. One of my favorite artists, Van Gogh, and it is warm and it is wonderful. It's beautiful to touch, and it's so beautiful. And everything that goes in it is special. And it's every single thing. You honor it by acknowledging what it does. Yeah. So I couldn't agree more. Every single thing, when you honor it for what it is, even the things that we don't like, teach you. They teach you who you don't want to be. They teach you what you don't want to do.
That's so powerful. Do you have any examples or stories that come to mind? Because I think that is a powerful concept, that the things you don't want, even the things you don't want, are there to be your teacher too.
I think that was one of the first things that when I started this journey, that because I was so lost, it was almost like I was a blank sheet. So that could be filled with new things. I didn't recognize it back then, but now I know this. So I was kind of looking around. What do I like and what do I not really like? What really speaks to me? What sparks life in me? Because, at that time, it was just really, everything was just like miserable in my life. Everything was taken away from me. So I was really open. And then I saw some people doing things that I really liked. And and then I recognized I can do this. Or, for example, that's a good example. People who promise something to me and they don't do it. And there comes that point when you recognize, okay, I don't like it.
Yeah.
But do I do it? Oh, yeah, I have done that too. From that moment on, when you recognize, ooh, I have done that too, you cannot do that anymore. . So you become very careful at what you promise.
Yes, it's such a perfect example of when you don't like something, then turning around and looking in the mirror.
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
That I think is the full circle, you know. And I think this is the time that we're in, that everything comes full circle, because we have opened up to seeing that we are all one, that we have a community, that we're collective, that we're not living in a vacuum. I cannot be whole, healthy, thriving if everything around me is miserable.
Right.
So so we understand the we that we all are. But that's only half of the circle, because the full circle is bringing all of those things that you really like back to you and make it your own, put your own expression into it. And those things that you don't like, you better clean up. That a responsibility of who you want to be. Because I don't want to be the person everybody has to wait for. Or
Right.
I promise something and then I don't do it. I don't want to be that.
Right.
I don't like it. Other people probably don't either.
What comes to mind as you talk about this is the idea of radical responsibility. And so much of my spiritual journey has been taking radical responsibility for my life. That's a term that I've used. And
I love that radical responsibility, because I believe in that completely. I mean, we all need support. We all need each other.
Yeah.
And I encourage all of that. I mean, sharing all of our wisdom and sharing what we have and what we know, and all of that is important. But the thing is, you are responsible for what you do. You create your life basically with every thought, word, and action in every moment.
Oh, that's so great. I love that. It's so empowering.
Well, it is, but it is that empowering. You are truly the creator. So, it's not always easy, because
Right.
we're not taught to have boundaries. We're not taught to say no, because that part is part of that. We always think of love has to be nice and soft and kind, and but love is also about those boundaries, saying no and walking your own path, not doing what everybody else does, but stepping out and saying, no, this is not right for me. I have to do this different thing. That's love.
Yes. And this is another thing that I first heard from you that I have repeated myself. And that is that boundaries are a high form of self-love.
True. It truly is. I thank you for repeating that, because it's, I feel so fortunate, because I ask my guides for words so many times when I talk. So things come out, and then they become part of my knowledge, and then I kind of don't ever talk about it. But it's right to really revisit these things.
That's the thing. It
becomes such a part of knowledge, and I so appreciate that you're bringing this up again, because now it's again on top of my head, so I can use that when I give readings.
Right.
Because I recognize that sometimes you have to simplify everything you say.
Yes.
For the people who don't know. So you have to use super simple language. When you get deep into knowing of things, your language becomes no more simple for somebody who is just starting.
Yes, that makes sense.
So, well, that's truly, I think, one of the things that I really always try to bring things down to the most simple and clear level that I can. because the more simple it is, the more it's right, usually.
Yes.
And I know that there's complexities, but we have added so many complexities in our life, and bringing down everything to the essence is such a beautiful thing. Is this love to me? Does this feel like I can breathe? Does this spark life? Does this spark passion? Those are the questions. So there's such simple questions that when we can listen to ourselves, always can be answered so clearly in the moment. In the moment you have clarity, what is right?
Yes.
Yeah.
In the moment, that's so key, right? Like in the now.
In the now. Historically, we've been taken out of the now by life because we haven't really included the divinity. The divinity was always outside.
Yes.
Now we're recognizing that divinity is also inside. Each and every life is divine.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Oh, yeah. I love this. I love this.
Yeah, the smallest piece of sand, the biggest mountains, as alive as we are. And that it comes back to the honor. That's the most simple thing, really, when you look at things. Honor everything. I think you can't bring it down to more simplicity. Doesn't mean that you like everything, but you honor it for what it teaches you.
This reminds me of something that, and maybe you'd be able to share. You have some practices in your daily life that you've shared with me that are about honoring everything. And those practices were so influential on how I go about my day to day now. So I would love if you would be willing to share some of how you bring that into your everyday life.
Well, everything I touch, I give thanks to. Like when I take the mug that I have in my hand, I give thanks to the mug, to everything in there. When I fill it with water or anything, I sing to it. Everything in, basically from the moment I am awake to when I go to sleep, my life's about gratitude. Whatever there is, whatever I touch, whatever I am in contact with on that day, I give it gratitude for what it does for me, what it teaches me, because everything in life you can use to lift yourself up. So by honoring this is the honoring. I have this little song that I sing to my water every time I refill something. I just sing to the water, and I talk to the fire. The fire teaches me, like, it's winter right now, so I have this wood burning stove in my house. So I asked the fire to teach me, and the fire teaches me in amazing ways. If you see everything as alive, as honorable, as a connection within yourself to yourself, everything becomes part of you.
Oh, that's so beautiful. It's so simple, like you said.
Yes.
And so powerful.
Yeah. It truly is.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of people do that. You go out in the garden and you talk to every single plant. I think that's kind of almost where it started, because we became so aware of how plants move. And then the same thing, I think, that happens to each of us, of everything. If you give it nurture and care, everything just blooms.
Yes. This reminds me of something else brilliant that you taught me once. And that was that I should go into every situation with high expectations.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I can do it anymore, any different at this point. It's when we start our journey, what we learn in this as we grow up is to think of the worst. It's part of the trauma that we have out of survival, because we have to always plan and we have to always expect the worst. But everything is vibration, everything is energy. So every thought, word, and everything you feel is in form of energy that basically creates the energy of you. Everything. Frequencies of vibrations are magnetic. So if you expect the worst, that's what you're opening yourself to.
That's what you're vibrating at, right?
That's what you're vibrating at. Whereas when you expect the best, that's what you're opening yourself to. You vibrate at a different rate that brings to. But that requires also this really rewiring of the brain, because we have all grown up in this world where we think of the worst first.
Yeah,
that can happen. I was taught this by someone who told me for so long, like, you have to think positive, not negative. And I was like, I couldn't understand it. It took me years to truly understand the significance of thinking in terms of possibilities instead of the worst that can happen. I think about the worst and I prepare, but I expect the best.
And that's
Always.
that's such an important distinction. It's not putting on blinders and saying la 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 la, everything's always okay. It's being, like you just said, being prepared for the possibility, but expecting the best.
Absolutely. And from my own personal experience, that's exactly what has happened.
Yeah.
Once you open yourself to those possibilities and allow them to just come, it goes so, again, way beyond your boldest dreams. Things that you could never, ever even think of, all of a sudden enter your life.
Yeah.
Because yes, it is all vibrational. But the active part within our human healing journey is really that rewiring of the brain. And you have the power. Everyone has the power.
Yes. So this reminds me, when I was going through my cancer treatment, Gita was very much with me every step of the way. And this is something that I've learned from Gita that I employed so heavily during that time, that I was allowing myself to feel all of the challenging emotions that were coming up, but I was expecting the best. I was expecting the best. I was expecting the treatment to work. I was expecting to be cancer-free. And I 100% believe that played a huge part in my treatment being so effective so quickly.
Yeah, I remember our conversations about that. And you were so amazing to start, because you had been set on from the very beginning that you're going to get something out of it. And what I loved about that you didn't fight, that you worked with it. Because we think we have to fight these things that we don't want.
Right.
It really is in the kindness, the gentleness, the compassion in which we hold that which we want.
Yes.
That's where it comes through. Because fighting basically makes it just hard. And within hardness, things break.
Yes.
Softness, you can shape. You can shape new, you can shape health.
Yes. At the time, when I received this cancer diagnosis, I had worked with Gita for years. And it goes back to this idea of honoring everything. That included honoring this experience, honoring this diagnosis. Like that teaching immediately came into play for me. It was so powerful.
Wow, that is beautiful. I thank you for sharing that. I knew that you had this amazing attitude from the get-go, and I knew you would definitely be healthy. That it was just amazing. Your whole journey was incredible. I have to say how you handled this on every step of the way. You talking about radical responsibility. You did exactly that. You took that responsibility fully. You looked at everything, every option that you had. And that is an amazing thing because, so many times something really, cancer diagnosis is not something easy. Oh, no. It crashes everything, I imagine.
Oh, yeah.
And, and to pick yourself up and through this is not easy. So I really have much admiration for how that was an extremely potent learning experience for everyone, had to be for everyone around you to see how you went through this.
Thank you. And I do feel that. I do feel that it was not just for me at all. It was very much for everyone who touched my reality at that time and as we speak about it now.
And here we come back to, I think that as we honor everything, that's really true for everything. Everything that it's not just what I experience, but what everybody around me experiences. We can learn and we can see like you were such an example of how to deal with this potentially devastating the diagnosis. How you just held yourself in such amazing love. That had to be such a teaching for everybody around. I know it was for me. It was so incredibly beautiful to see what you can achieve when you truly step into that divine love.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Absolutely. Divine love. That's everything. That's the whole, that's it. That's all there is, right? That's
all there is. And you're definitely, that inspiration that you get touches everybody around you. But then remember that all the people around you that touched you also touch others.
Right.
So your journey was an inspiration, through layers and layers and layers for people from all over.
That's amazing. It's
when you think about that, it's totally amazing how the circles get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes. Yes, the ripple effect. It's so huge. It's like exponential. It's like more than our mind can comprehend.
Yes, it is. And it's really there. I mean, you can see it in the people around you. And then it's so interesting. I don't know how much personal sessions you do with people, but you see it that people say, oh, this person told me about you from somewhere completely different.
Right.
Part of the world.
Yes. Right.
So there you see your ripple effects.
Right.
And that is immensely rewarding and beautiful. And it helps you to keep yourself in that responsibility, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, definitely. So rewarding. Yes. That's the thing about the radical responsibility is it's just so good. It makes life so beautiful and empowered. And I mean, it's, yeah, it's love. It makes life feel like love all the time.
Doesn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
And once you step into that, there's just, when people ask me, what are you grateful for? And I'm just looking around, everything. And I mean that, everything. And I know I used to say, I mean, I've been saying this for a while. And a few months ago, I got an email from somebody who was just, I hadn't seen for a long time. And they were telling me, like, so I just want to tell you, when you were talking about that you're grateful for everything, I didn't really get it, but now I do. It's the most beautiful thing, when because you can't but being grateful for everything.
Yeah.
And so if I have to, I mean, I can pick this right now because it's right in front of me. I can tell you but everything around me, the computer, our conversation,
Yeah.
the microphone that I'm speaking into, the speakers that I'm listening to.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that we have those opportunities, those connections, the chair I'm sitting on,
Yeah.
the sanctuary that I created around myself within my home.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that, that I actually used to be that blank page, that I had to start basically from scratch, and decided I wanted to invest in what truly feels good to me.
Yes. Oh, amazing. I love it. And I know that everyone listening right now is soaking up this energy of gratitude, and it's going to be beautiful for everyone listening.
It goes deep. It really, really, and as when every cell in your body basically vibrates gratitude, it's just so expansive. You can feel it wherever you're going around, and people respond to it too. It's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
really, really beautiful.
It is. For 15 years, you've been doing spiritual work. So you've been around in this space since before 2012. And I wonder, from your perspective, how has reality and the energy shifted over the course of those 15 years?
Well, I think that we have access to energies, to insights, to clarity within ourselves at this point that we couldn't have in 2012. I think that the energy has shifted to really give us so much more freedom of allowance of who we want to be. It kind of, it's this, again, this spiral where you start from and you can just see how everything is just so exponentially expanding in so many ways. Obviously, when you listen to some of the news and look at the outside, it looks very different but when you're living in this divine love, I can see so much pure light. I would say in around 2015 15, there was one time when it was just so incredible how much more light I could see in people. But it was in general. It just opened. We have been basically beamed out. We're coming, obviously, as we're traveling into the age of Aquarius, we're coming into different energies that open up, I think, possibilities within our brain, within our heart, within our gut, within our whole being, in every cell, if you want to, where we can carry more light. You know, people, obviously, in the spiritual community, we talk a lot about truly body changes, that we're changing into more crystalline shape. And I can see that because we can carry so much more. We can carry so much more light if we choose to. And that is independent from your surroundings. You have to decide, and more that becomes more and more clear. I think that whole circle, that you have to decide for yourself where you want to be in this journey. And our connections to all of, let's say, nature, but not nature, to everything.
Yeah.
It's becoming also much more clear. I think that the clarity in which we can really step into our, whatever is our own journey within our own spirituality. You know, I just read the other day, I think we passed 8 billion people on this planet.
Wow.
I know. I would say within the last week, I think I read about it. And, you know, given that, you know, I don't know if it's true, but nevertheless, it was close. Yeah. So there's 8 billion truths to what it is, to what life is. And, but here we see that divide in, okay, your truth can come from fear. And that's something that one of your podcasts made it so clear to me. That was just so to the point where you said, you can stay in fear, and that's your truth, or you can come from the truth of love. And as you come from the truth of love, things open up. Whereas when you come from the truth of fear, everything closes in.
Yes. It shrinks. Yes.
It does. So if you want to open, you just look into love, and love starts within you, within yourself. It's not something to be given to you. If you don't carry love, there is no love.
That's right. Oh, and that's such an important distinction, because I think culturally, especially, you know, in our Western culture, so many people think of love as something you have to get from someone else. Yeah.
This cup gives me a lot of love. Coming back to the cup again, this gives me a lot of love. You know, it's beautiful beverages that really fill me up with warmth. It's cold out there. So
yep,
I take that also in as love.
Yep.
And let it spread within me. And as I fill myself up with that love, it's an easy thing to just spread it out in the world.
Right.
It's that it kind of just comes naturally out of you. And I think that is really upcoming, that we all have to decide, who do I want to be?
Yes.
Not we. Now we should do this. Yeah, sure, we should do this. But do I do this?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Such an important line of self-inquiry.
Yeah. We have to look at ourselves.
Yeah.
And as we step into the possibilities, there's that freedom to step out of all the things that pull you down, that pull you into this fear.
Yes.
And as you step into the love, the fear just gets less and less and less. I would just come out basically out of, the pandemic, where there's so much fear.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know about you. Did you ever really fear this?
Maybe in the very beginning, that very beginning moment was of the very beginning moment of the pandemic, I think, is when my spiritual journey accelerated. And part of the reason it accelerated is because I sunk into that love instead of fear.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember, and for me, it was like, well, I don't want to really get it. So I'm just going to, I don't mask and whatever it is that I need to do, I do. So I prepare. But if this disease will take me and my body, I have to leave my body, then it was meant to be.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Right.
But I also trust that I have many more years in this body.
Yes. Expecting the best.
Yeah. I just know this.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I remember I had it, and I probably always had that. When I was like, I was probably in my early 20s or something like that, I had an accident. I guess I rolled a few times and kind of ended up crashing into a house.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I just remember that I had a choice between head on or going off the streets. And I chose not to have head on. I remember, so I'm sitting in my car and looking around. Okay, I'm fine. I'm good. And this woman that I would have crashed into out of the car, she comes running. And she's like, oh my God, you're alive. You're alive. And I'm just looking at her. I was like, yeah.
Of course.
I guess that's been my attitude pretty much my entire life. But that has been enhanced now because I just completely trust that whatever happens, wherever I am, I'm at the right place, right, for the right reason, with the right people, whatever happens.
Yeah.
It's okay. My spirit is eternal.
Yep. Yes.
So while I'm in this body, I might as well do as much good as I can.
Yes.
Create something bigger than the sum of this body, what it represents. But I'm stepping in, but if tomorrow something happens and I leave my body, oh well. I'm looking forward to the next journey.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And I think that is one of the things on my spiritual journey that has been so life-changing, is that sense right there, that sense, that knowing that there is no real ending to all of this, that when I leave this body, that's just this body and this perspective. And there's something so powerful in making peace with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the great keys.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great keys to living in love versus fear.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, you look around in this environment in which we live, this earth, everything has a cycle, including our human body.
Yeah.
And maybe we can live within the cycle because it's beautiful. Every cycle, when you look at nature, like every season is beautiful. In the winter, you know, that silence, that when you have snow, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
That every season has its different ways. So, and I think that is the same for us humans.
Yeah.
You know, we come in, it's the spring, then, you know, we're in the best years, it's the summer, and then we get into the fall, and then we get into winter.
Yeah.
And there's another spring coming.
Right.
May not be on this earth, but somewhere.
That's right. Exactly. Yes. It's like acceptance of the cyclical nature of reality.
Yeah.
There's a
And
lot of power
I think
in that.
that's one of the biggest lessons that spirit learns in this human body is to be finite.
Oh, interesting.
Spirit is infinite.
Right.
This body is finite.
Right.
I think that's one of the biggest lessons for spirit. To recognize that there's finite things. There's cycles.
Yes, that's right. Like this, I've had the thought before, the insight before. This is spirit's one opportunity to experience reality through this particular lens of Brittany Wittig.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's amazing. I mean, you know, that like this Brittany is put together from so many different parts.
Yes, right.
So unique.
Right.
Like everyone else. And yes, for spirit to experience that, but to experience it consciously, that the body also experiences the spirit. It's the reciprocal nature of working together as one keeps the body in a much different shape too.
Yes. Yes. You know, this reminds me of something that I actually just read about today. There were like, I think maybe 10 boys in Thailand that were on a field trip. They got caught in the cave. Do you remember that news story? It was a couple of years ago. Well, these 10 boys, they were on a field trip with their teacher in Thailand and they got caught in a cave. They went into a cave and then the water rose and they were trapped inside. And they were trapped inside for 10 days with no food before anyone found them. And it turns out and they were saved. They were found, they were saved. The way that they survived in those 10 days is the teacher actually taught all of them to meditate.
Isn't that amazingly beautiful?
Yes.
I mean, yeah. That, you know, I think spirit, when you're consciously working spirit and body together, you can overcome so much more than when you're just feel that you're just that human part.
Right.
And when spirit is not that conscious.
Yes.
That's where, again, where it comes, spirit is love.
Right.
You know?
Yes. Absolutely.
So that's as you get into that love, your body can take a whole lot more.
Right. Definitely. Oh,
You're the best example of that.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
The story is yeah, it's a great story.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, amazing. I love that everything always goes back to love. It's
always the answer.
Yeah.
It's really, I think we just have to relearn in general as a society what love is, and as individual what love is. We have to redefine what love is.
Yes. Makes me think of boundaries being an important piece of love.
100%. I remember when I first started my spiritual journey, you were trying to really deny the things within yourself, like anger, like all those emotions that you felt were lower vibration. So you wanted to get rid of it. You wanted to be in this total equilibrium, like in a really high state, like meditative state, almost you wanted to live your life. But that's the human is part of spirit once you're in the body. So anger is such a powerful emotion that may propel you to do something about something that you don't like.
Yes.
So everything you are for a reason, including the things that you might not like about yourself. We both are Scorpios.
Yeah.
I know I have this stinger.
Yes, me too.
There comes a time when I use it. And I used to feel so bad every single time I used to do that. And then I learned within my journey that sometimes, or actually quite often, people would come back to me and said, I needed to hear this in that way because they couldn't hear it. The stinger comes out because somebody doesn't, that's basically invade boundaries all the time. Right. Over and over again. Because otherwise, if they respect it, the stinger wouldn't come out.
Right.
So there is something to be said about that. So, I needed to hear this. Thank you. And so you got to learn to really acknowledge all of that human in you. Everything has a place. Basically, we're hardwired. We're totally hardwired for whatever we come here to live, or whatever our purpose is, which means all of us, not just the things that we like about ourselves, where we can be in peace and where we can be so nice and agreeable and wonderful and smiley. It's awesome. But those parts of you that are passionate and angry and maybe not so nice, they definitely are so important also for what you came here. That denying of anything you are is not embracing the fullness of yourself. We're talking about embracing wholeness. Wholeness means all. You are such a good example of that too, because when you got your cancer, through your cancer journey, you took every option into account. So many people dismiss certain options, whether it is energy option or the allopathic medicine option, whatever it is, you took it all into account. And I think the same is true for us as human beings. We are only whole when everything within us is one.
Yes. Loving all of ourselves.
Yeah.
Not just the part that we think convenient. That's convenient, that we've decided is acceptable based on cultural conditioning.
Yeah. And I mean, you and I, we both know too, every time you make a mistake, and I do quotation marks around this word right now, because there is no such thing. It's always a learning experience.
Yes, it's all for you.
In art, they say a happy mistake, when something, you trying something and and all of a sudden you have no idea how you do it, but wow, it comes out just being perfect. When I do my art I do mandalas, that happens so often. I just kind of play with things and whoa, I have no idea. Really, sometimes there's no conscious thought about this. I want to do this and this and this. It just comes out that way as you play with it.
Yes.
Play, explore,
Yes. And Gita, for everyone listening, Gita creates these gorgeous mandalas. I mean, just amazing they have so much energy to them, and they invoke so much feeling and They're amazing. They're beautiful. I'm going to put Gita's website in the show notes so you can check them out, because you definitely should check them out.
Thank you. I appreciate that. They also tell a story of my life.
Oh, interesting.
I didn't know that up until, I want to say, quite a few years in. I recognized that every mandala basically also says a lot of state that I am in at every point in my life.
Oh,
It's really such an incredibly beautiful alignment. I can look at my mandalas and I can tell my story.
wow. Oh, that's so beautiful. And to have that record.
Yeah, it is. I have to say, it's really, uh, I've been doing this for about a good 10 years now, the mandalas. When I started it, it just seemed like a really beautiful meditative state you're getting in. I put some music in it and I really play with things. And, I don't do them by hand. I do them with a computer. And so I play with things and it's just really my happy space. Sometimes when I get at it at night, I look at the clock and say, what's 2:30? Oh, I better go to bed. I have an appointment at 8 o'clock. So, but it's this, but then I was looking at him and I recognize each one has a story, each one of them and I mean, I would think that most artists have this connection to their art. It comes out of you because it's an expression of you. So, but by looking at what you're creating and seeing your story, it's really profound to sometimes look at things and remember that moment in time.
Oh, yeah. That's beautiful. I love that. That's amazing. I never thought of them that way, but that of course makes total sense.
And, mandalas are just such, I like symmetry and balance, and it brings
Yes.
me into balance too. As I work with balance in the mandalas, it brings me into balance.
There's something about creation, especially creation of like art, writing, that when you get into that flow state, it's so powerful. I think it's one of those things that finding a way to bring that flow state into your life is so beneficial.
Yeah. If you had asked me 15 years ago, I would have told you I don't have a creative bone in my body.
Oh, wow.
I'm serious. I mean, I even took art classes in college. I remember that. And it just, I mean, I didn't feel good about any of my art at all.
Wow.
And then we're talking about creativity, and something expanded my mind about creativity. And I was like, well, I'm actually a pretty creative cook, because, I can open up any refrigerator and I put on a decent meal. Out of whatever is in the refrigerator, I'll find something that works.
Yeah.
So that was my first thought. And then I had to create this mandala for a class. Almost quit the class because I can't. I almost quit the class.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe it.
Because I thought I cannot do the mandala.
Wow.
The first time I had to do a mandala, and that just kind of was cathartic. It was just amazing, and I just never stopped.
Oh my gosh, I love that story. That's so great. Wow. Almost quit the class.
I'm serious. I think I mulled over this for weeks. How can I do this?
Wow.
How can I create this? Because I don't have a creative bone in my body.
Wow. Oh my gosh, how interesting. That's such a great example of how we tell ourselves stories, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first started, I wasn't very visual at all. I just had this kind of inner knowing, which, also was not, I was very confident in talking to people, but, working with people pretty much every day, which I have been really fortunate enough to be able to do, allowed me to see that if I said something, it usually applied. So I have to say, I was more often floored than not. Oh, this is really true. So, but it gives you confidence with time.
Yes.
I told myself for years, I'm not visual. And I would tell the stories. I would tell stories of what I saw. I mean, you know this. We do the Reiki circle. And
Yeah.
I tell stories of what I see.
Yes.
But I'm not visual at all.
Ah!
And I think it's less than 2 years ago that I finally cracked that in my head, that I realized that I am so very visual.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's great. I love that.
I feel what I have done with my life is achievable for everyone, because I don't feel we're all special. So don't get me wrong here. But I don't feel I'm so super special in terms of that I do things that cannot be done.
Yeah.
So I think that if you set your mind to it, and for me, it took that basically forcing of it. The universe was just forcing me. But I think in some ways, we're all at a breaking point here.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yes.
And it's stepping over. One of my first teachers told me this, when you, or I read this somewhere too. You step over the edge. There's two possibilities. You find solid ground under your feet, or you learn to fly. And that's true.
Yes.
And sometimes you find both.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh. I love that.
Yeah. You just have to decide
Yeah.
to love, starting with yourself. But truly love, not, that selfish love that we all consider often as love is. I mean, I grew up in this notion, self-love is selfish.
Sure.
If I have learned anything I kind of recognize that I've been studying love for 15 years.
Yes.
And in this 15 years, self-love is truly, when you step into self-love, it teaches you what love truly is. But you have to, again, look within yourself. That radical responsibility is part of it.
Right.
You have to be serious about being a better person.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to take that radical responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, Gita's kitty just showed up.
Yeah. That's his space here, right in front of my computer.
Perfect. Well, Gita, honestly, I think this is pretty much perfect. I feel like you just brought it full circle there so beautifully. Is there anything else that you want to share? Anything else?
The thing that I feel mostly really want to share is that to all of the listeners, allow yourself to know that you're so much better than you've ever been taught. That everything is possible. You can do it. You can do whatever it is that makes your life that you feel is worth living, that you want to live it every single day.
Yeah.
At the highest possible way.
Yeah.
You can do it. Each one of us has to do it in their own way. Yeah. But you find your way if you start loving yourself.
Yes.
Having some respect for yourself. Honor yourself first. Like we have talked so much about honoring. honor yourself. You're worth it. You're worth your best. You're worth living in the brightest light that you can shine.
Beautiful. That is beautiful advice. Wonderful. Wisdom.
And you can do it.
Thank you so much, Gitte. Thank you for being here and for just going so deep into love.
Well, thank you for having me. I really, I have no words to express how much I respect and honor you. You are such an amazing person. I mean, we've known each other now for a number of years. And what you have achieved, wow, I have such deep admiration and respect for all you do.
Thank you so much, Gitte. And of course, you know, I feel exactly the same. So much respect, so much gratitude. Just so grateful that the universe brought us together.
Yeah, I think that was planned before we came in this body.
Oh, yeah. Yep, for sure.
Pretty convinced about that.
Yep. Well, thank you so much for being here.
You.
And
So much.
oh, I love you too. Thank you.